my perspective as a Italian who lived in the United States, who speaks English, who knows Americans are different. I speak about U.S. citizens, and this part of the of the talk, the speech. I see oftentimes that there are videos on YouTube about Europeans. Like there are American, U.S. citizens, and European. The comparison is completely flawed. United States of America, commonly called America, is a nation of different states where actually the difference between states is not so evident. I mean, sometimes even Americans cannot tell the other person where he or she is from in the States, because yes, there are differences in accents, but many people speak a standard American, have a standard American accent, and difference are widespread. Southern accent, so it's not so evident. I mean, in a single state like Italy, there are more differences. We have really dialects that are different. Okay, so you compare a single country with a continent, and if you said American, you mean Central, Northern America, Central America, Southern America to Europe, would make some sense. Okay, you're comparing a nation where there is a single common language, which is English or American English, standard American English. Okay, there are minorities that speak Spanish is widely spoken by people who speak Spanish, not Americans, white, Anglo-Saxon, or even blacks. Black people don't actually know Spanish. Very few people learned the language in the United States. That's another big problem. So, what is Europe? Europe is a continent that starts in the west from Portugal and ends in Russia and the Caucasus in the south. They're not clear-cut. It's not like a big, humongous islands or two big, gigantic islands like North America and South America connected by Central America. It's not Africa. We know what Africa is. Europe and Asia are commonly called, can be called Eurasia. Actually, Russia spreads, and most of the Russian Federation, better called Russian Federation, is in Asia. So there are mountains called Urals, and in the south there is a region called Caucasus, and these are real Caucasians. Why Americans use Caucasian to it's a kind of politically stupid way, not politically correct, to call what commonly we call whites or white people. White people are usually have, for the most part, their origin is in Europe, even if there are parts of Asia where there are white people, and there's not a clear-cut difference between white people and Indian that have dark skin, because it's a continuum. Okay, actually they have European features. Even the word Aryan, the word Iran is the same origin, is from part is from Asia. Actually, Asia is divided in those that we have. They have three, like Chinese, Japanese, Korean features, and everything in the middle, because many people are mixed and have 50% of East Asian blood and 50% of Caucasian blood. It's a little bit complicated. So this is geographically Europe. Starts from Portugal, France, Spain, France, Germany, in the south of Italy, the Balkans with Greece, Bulgaria, what was called Yugoslavia, or the new states, and then the Slavic part, Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, Poland, Ukraine, and Belarus and Russia. There is a part of Europe that is Turkey, which is historically, linguistically, even religion and tradition is Asia. Okay? Then there is the culture. We share some history of wars. We fought each other. Even recently, in the 90s, in Yugoslavia, there was a war, and now there is a war between also Slavic people, Russian and Ukrainian. Actually, it's Russia and the Western world, but that's another story. So when Americans compare the United States of America with Europe, doesn't make any sense. And when they call Europeans, do they factor in Turkish people who live in Europe, in a part of Turkey that is geographically Europe? Do they factor in, for example, Russians, Georgians? Actually, I don't know. I confess, I don't know exactly. And for example, Cyprus for some people is Europe, for other people is Asia. So the borders are controversial because they're not clear-cut borders other than the Urals. It's easy to tell this is America, this is Africa, and this is Australia. Okay? It's more controverted. It's more problematic to know what is Europe and what is not Europe. For example, people from the Russian Federation that lives in part of Russia that is geographically Asia. Do we think of him? Does he think he's Asian? Okay, it's very complicated. Mostly Americans think of Europe what we can, United Kingdom or Northern Ireland or Great Britain, Northern Ireland, that's a name. Some people call it England, but it's wrong. Or Great Britain, that's the official name. It's the longest name of a nation, actually. And the part where that belongs to this, sorry to say, but bureaucratic entity that is the European Union that I deeply loathe. But that's food for another video. So we think that Central and Western and Western Europe is Europe. We call Europeans. Americans think of them as Europeans. But think that, would you accept to be in the same basket Americans, US citizens, with Mexican, with Brazilian, with whatever other country of South and Central America? I don't think so. You are what you are. You are US citizens. Well, and south of the border they speak Spanish. And actually, in Europe, Spain has borders with other countries that speak Latin Romance languages. But there are countries that border with, for example, German has border with France, and France speak a Romance language, and German speak a Germanic language. So there is more or less the same difference. You have borders where they speak a Germanic language, and English is a Germanic language, with a lot of French words, Latin words, but it's basically Germanic language, kind of bastard, but it's still Germanic. And French, which is a Romance language. And they are different as a US citizen has no Latin roots with a Mexican. I mean, an American is different from Mexican as a German person from any other country, mostly countries Romance that speak Romance languages or Slavic languages. These are the three major branches in Europe. There are isolated languages, but mainly you have all these countries that speak Latin languages. They have Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, with other minority languages inside each country, and you have Romania that speak a Romance language strongly affected, influenced by surrounding Slavic languages. So, in the center you have Germany, England, Holland, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. They speak Germanic languages. And then you have all the Slavic languages from Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, North Macedonia, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. Then you have isolated languages like Greek, Albanian, which they belong to the same tree called Indo-European languages, where the numbers are similar. They are similar, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, and there are these known Indo-European languages. There are isolated European languages like Albanian and Greek, and there are other languages that are spoken in Europe that have nothing to do with the big historical tree of the Indo-European language, which is a non-official, not of a country, part of Spain. They speak Basque, and they speak Turkish, which has nothing to do with the Indo-European, is another tree of languages. And you have Estonian and Finnish that have similar roots, and they are another different family. So you put all of these countries, very different. I mean, a German and a Greek can be more different than a gringo, American, from a Mexican or a Brazilian. And in Europe they do like this. Would you like to be in the American continent Like, what do you have in common to be in the same basket, I said before, with a Brazilian person? Because all of you are Americans. I mean, not as we commonly use the word American, we mean U.S. citizens, but they live in this huge continent of that is two um, big land masses, North and South America. So I don't understand why what you Europeans, or what do Americans think of Europe? I interview a U.S. citizen, a Canadian citizen, maybe he speaks French or she speaks French, somebody who speaks Spanish, and somebody who speaks Portuguese, and they put all of them in the same basket, as I said before. Doesn't make any sense. Obviously, we have something in common in Europe, that is our history of centuries, that we share also with the United States, because the culture, the Anglo-Saxon culture of the United States is not even 3 centuries, yes, maybe 3 centuries of separation, but basically Americans have a lot in common with Europeans, in spite of the fact they are on the other side of the pond, while you go to the northern part of Africa, Maghreb, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt, where they're very different. I mean, they speak Arabic, which is a non-European language, not Indo-European language. They are Muslim for the most part, and they have another way of life, not completely different, because we all are humans. But do you think that, for example, I go to the United States, okay, yeah, hypothesis, an Italian goes to the United States, flies to the United States. Do you think that, oh, now I'm in America, I'm in European, and if I were in Europe, everything would be more similar? Not at all. For example, I go to Germany, I don't understand their language, okay, and to me it's a completely foreign country. Yes, they use the same money, okay, but not all over Europe, and I'm totally against this, me being in the same big entity, bureaucratic entity, which is neither fish nor fowl, called the European Union. We don't have a common language. We don't have common media. A movie, there's no European movie. A movie is either Italian or French, German, whatever. You cannot compare United States, which is a single country that has different states, but it's not like the states in Europe. I mean, Minnesota and Illinois are not as different as Italy and Switzerland, which is not in the European Union, but is Europe. So it's completely wrong to compare a continent where we speak I don't know how many languages, and even the same country we can have in Spain there are 3 official languages. I don't know if Basque is official, but it's Catalan, Gallego, and what we call Spanish, which is Castilian, I don't know in English. What do we have in common? The money, since 2001 or 2, not an army, not police. Okay, there are borders anymore, but sometimes there are, depending on the situation. We basically don't like each other. It's the truth. I mean, some people don't like Germany, some people don't like France, some give an example. There is a given example. There is a football match or soccer match, as we want to call it. We don't support a German team against a South American team. I don't say American team because, you know, soccer is not really popular in the United States. Therefore, they're not very good football teams. But anyway, we don't support Germany because, oh, it's Europe and I'm European, against a South American team. Most likely we do the opposite. We support an Argentina team against Germany because, okay, they're similar. They speak, actually in Argentina they speak Spanish with an Italian accent. Half of the population has Italian descent. We sympathize with those people, not with Germans. And we fought with Germans many times. Second World War, they invaded us. The First World War, we fought with the Austrians, that are basically Southern Germans that speak a different dialect. If from some historical reasons they stayed independent, remained independent from Germany, but their official language is German. We basically we have like a derby with France. Linguistically, they're very close to us with a very bad pronunciation for us, but Spanish is very understandable. Catalan, which is one of the official languages of French of Spain, is even closer to Italian. So why another thing, Russians, most of Russians live in the European part, in spite of the fact that the Asian part is wider, bigger, but they don't call them Europeans. They are fucking Europeans. Actually, they share common history. The music is, the literature is European. Even their language is European, and Slavic people belong to the Indo-European family. So even biologically, let's say, DNA, in spite of the fact there are many other citizens of the Russian Federation, I wouldn't call them Russian per se, because many of them look like more like Korean or half-blood Asian and European. So it's a very complicated thing. Okay. And I tell you, many Europeans know more about the United States. I know more about, because, okay, I live there. You can tell by the way I speak, which is a mix of British English, American English, and Italian and Greek, because I also speak Greek. And still I see many videos where they, oh, the Europeans, there's no fucking European. It's like I put in the same basket all Africans, which is, some Africans are white, and they're complete Africans, and they're white African from South Africa. Some of them are Northern African, which is have swarty skin. They have a darker skin, but are not South Saharan people. They don't have these features. Uh, Middle Eastern, they look Middle Eastern basically, but there are, so, and you put, I'm African, in this African American, so Elon Musk is African American. Why not? He's from Africa. Really from Africa. Why all these black people? No, they are from the United States. They were born there. So it's a very complicated thing. People should know the reality. It's complicated. And I will call all this continent Eurasia. Basically, from the point of view of geography, is Eurasia. It's a single stretch of land. Okay? It's not like the other continents that are really. America is there, Africa is there, Australia is there, Antarctica is there. So we don't have something really in common. The way an Italian acts and behaves is different from a Greek person. I live in Greece, and many things were similar, but not everything. Okay? I think nowadays America is more standard than, let's say, 50 years ago or 100 years ago, because the media, radio, television, everything. But before, the South was very different from the North. The accent, the food, the way people behave, because it's different climate, different. I prefer the South. I've never been there. I live in Chicago. But anyway, so this long video is to educate American people about Europe, which is a continent that has different states, and every state is different from the other state, as different as the USA is different from Mexico, Nicaragua, Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina. I'm pronouncing this more like an Italian because I don't like American accent when it comes to this Spanish-speaking country. Brazil. Okay? I cannot give you an idea because it would take 3 hours and I'm not that such an expert, but there are something in common. We speak more languages because you have many countries and many languages, and borders are close to each other. I mean, everything is more compact in Europe. And other than that, we use euro in many countries, and there is a European Commission that hasn't been elected and tells us what to do with many things. That makes not a democratic country, because we elect some people, but those are for the European Parliament, but those are not the people who really take decisions. But that's a long story. Anyway, I consider myself for the most part Italian. I have an Anglo-Saxon side. You can see now I'm speaking English, I lived in Greece and learning Russian. Actually, I can say all of my languages and belong to the European continent and are Indo-European languages. Other than that, that's it. That's only scratching the surface of this subject. I always see Europeans fucking no. I don't. My identity is not the continent I live in. It's the language I speak, where I live, my history as a person, and the history of the places I've been living in. It's not a continent. We've been fighting each other not so long ago. Okay? And even now, there are wars. Russia and Ukraine is a war in Europe. So please, stop calling us Europeans. Call French people French, Spaniards in Spain, Portuguese, Germans, Russians, English, and Scottish, Welsh, Irish. That's our identity, okay? I'm not fucking European. No more than what is continent? Not continent. Australia, Oceania. Oh, who are you? I'm an Oceanian. No, fucking not. You know, you're from New Zealand. You're from Australia. Nobody would say I'm Oceanian. Doesn't make any sense. Most people call themselves according to their country. Even the Americans, they call Americans, but they mean United States of America. When they say America, they don't mean the whole continent. They mean part, the biggest part of North America. Okay? And by the way, even Mexico is part of North America. It's not South America. Having said that, goodbye.